let's talk about why we're all here. COVID-19, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're going to discuss the true cost of this pandemic. Let's first of all start talking about the financial implications. We're seeing huge government borrowing all over the world, with certainly here in the UK, the government trying to support people and businesses. They're talking about the short term. They said whatever the cost is, it will be worth it. But what will the cost be? How long term are governments looking now? Are they just dealing with the short term? Are they thinking about the long term implications?
Yeah, two answers on that. The first one is that, I think that we have a tendency to over-rationalize the past, to over-dramatize the present, and to underestimate the future. And that's very much the sentiment I have about the current ongoing debate as well. Point number two, I remember when I was foreign minister in 2008, my first budget negotiations with the Finnish government in August. And we had the best economists in Finland, from the Bank of Finland, from the finance ministry and other institutions. And they said, no problem. 2009, we're looking at growth rates between 3.5% and 4.5%. We're driven by the Nokia economy. Everything is going to be fine. Of course, 3 weeks later, Lehman Brothers and our economy contracted 10% subsequently. So to give you a short answer, no one really knows. This is uncharted territory. We're getting as Keynesian as we can get. And I think all governments right now are pumping in money into the economy as we speak.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that a little later. I just want to talk more about the financial implications, because people are obviously worried about their immediate situations. Many people being furloughed all around the world, private business owners going bust, with governments in some countries trying to support them. But who is going to end up paying for this pandemic? Is it going to be our generation? Is it going to be our children? Is it something that's going to go on for many decades?
Well, I was intimately involved with the financial crisis that started in 2008, which then became a euro crisis later on. And one of the key arguments that we always used with the austerity policies that came from Finland was that we cannot take this debt over to the next generations. We have to be responsible. I guess the same argument goes for climate as well. I do think, as I said earlier, this is going to be a Keynesian crisis. You are going to see rules and regulations linked to fiscal policies in nation states around the world being stretched to the limit. It is quite clear that central banks around the world, including the European Central Bank, will have to be intimately involved to keep the financial markets afloat. So I guess I could say that at the end of the day, of course, the next generations will ultimately have to pay the debt back. But in what form, we simply don't know at this stage yet. It is uncharted territory.
Now, what impact is all of this going to have on climate change? Because we're all obviously applauding the fact that our streets are free from pollution, the skies are free from pollution with no planes practically flying all over the world. Is this again going to be short term? Is this going to have a long term impact? Because meanwhile, power stations are still, pumping out electricity. They have to. Do you think this is just a blip, or will we see again a shift in the way that we approach the issue of climate change?
I think it's going to have both short-term and long-term implications, and they're linked to our patterns of behavior and then to innovation, especially in technology. Just short-term, to give you an idea, it's 80 kilometers from Helsinki to Tallinn, approximately. So when you are in the outer archipelago of Helsinki, you don't usually see to Tallinn. Now, after a 2-month lockdown, you can see evening lights coming from Tallinn. And, that's phenomenal. And that is only because there is less pollution in the air, and less flights, less boats, less factories, and the rest of it. And that's great. And of course, all of us are changing our patterns as well. I've driven the car a few times during the lockdown, but not too much really. So that is going to change. Now, second and long term, here's where we have to be very careful. I think the key is to use this moment and opportunity for two things. Number one is to push the bucket on clean tech or clean technology. Try to work on the types of innovations that provide a good fighting bloc against climate change. I mean, Bill Gates talks a lot about this. It's not anymore so much about, restrictions. It's about coming up with the technological solutions on how we get out of this. So, and here I think actually some Europeans might have a competitive advantage, not because of regulation, but the fact that there is environmental knowledge and technological knowledge. And I'd like to see a lot of work coming from China on this as well, and also from the United States. The second lesson that we must draw is because, the next crisis that we have, it might be another pandemic, that's fine, but it is going to be a climate crisis. And if we don't draw the lessons from that, then I think we'll be in trouble. So when sea levels start to rise, when temperatures go up, when new migratory movements start happening, I do admit right now we have anti-migration, people don't move, but there will be a day. So we need to draw lessons. And my argument is very much a sort of Yuval Noah Harari argument, is that we need global solutions for these global problems, and that's what we need to work on.